This is The Gorge. It's a podcast where my friend Sara and I gorge ourselves on overanalyzing a topic. The Gorge is brought...
still trying to say the game-related part.
I know, but it's not. It's just a topic now, even though this week is a game week. But we're brought to you by coffee. That's ko-fi.com/THEGOR. And it's Indie Week. Sara, what are we talking about this lovely Indie Week?
This lovely rainy Indie Week I mentioned on the pre-call or the pre-recording conversation. If you hear thunder, it's because it's raining. This lovely rainy Indie Week, we are talking about OneShot, just for the PC.
Yeah.
For once, it's not on every console under the sun, because it wouldn't work on any other console.
Hello?
Did I lose you?
Okay, you're right. You're okay.
That's weird. Okay, stay with me, computer.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good.
So, play OneShot. If you haven't played it yet, turn off the podcast.
Yeah.
Go play it. Like
literally, we can't. There's nothing to this game to discuss without ruining OneShot. So,
yeah.
Like, you literally can't... We can't do, like, a non-spoiler discussion, because, like, the heart of OneShot is, like... You don't want to know what's going on, so you'll be, like, ready for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, it's... I think it's, like, $10 to $5 on Steam.
Oh god, it's so cheap. You need to just go buy it.
It'll take you like maybe 5-6 hours to beat.
Yeah. That's about right.
Go play it for real, because
absolutely.
Like from minute one is like spoiler territory.
Yeah, you literally it is aggressively one of those like don't watch a trailer, don't read a review, like those kind of games.
Yeah.
That everybody's like it's like Doki Doki Literature Club. Yeah, where it's like, don't read anything about it, just go play it, and then come back and, then come back and listen to us. That kind of thing. So, yeah. So we're going to give you 5 seconds to turn off the podcast and go play OneShot. It's super cheap. You should, it can run on a potato, although my potato laptop still had a problem with it, so, it'll run on anything. 2, 1.
5,
yeah, how about
4,
that, right?
3, 2, 1.
Like.
Wow.
Oh,
that's
a video game, right?
That's So we've done a lot of these like meta style narrative games, like Doki Doki Literature Club or like Undertale,
right?
Even shades of it in Omen Sight and in Stories,
right?
Games that like play with the player as much as they do like the game world, but a lot of them like Undertale and DDLC, like they set that up as like the twist, like partway through, like
right.
You realize you're not playing a conventional game,
right?
Whereas this one's like, it's from minute one, it's like, no, you are a separate entity from Nico.
Yeah, the player character, like the player character, are a literal character in the story. Like, the game, like, the characters speak to you, and it's not like a twisty thing. It's just like, hey, you are a part of this story, and you are a part of this world. And yeah, you interact with the world the same way that NPCs interact with Nico, which is interesting. I enjoyed that aspect of the game a lot. I wish I could have talked to Nico more. I wanted to comfort the sad cat child a few more times.
I wish there was like a talk to Nico button you could press and you could just
like random opinions about things from Nico.
How like Prince of Persia 08 had the one-liner button.
Yeah.
Where like you'd have a quick banter moment with Elika, like
right.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think it's more DDLC comparative than Undertale, because I was thinking about this. Undertale doesn't really do the idea of the player being a separate entity. it treats game mechanics basically like in-universe superpowers.
Yeah.
Like, the ability to restart and replay is not really treated like you restarting your literal save file. It's more like you have the ability to rewind time and try a new timeline over.
Right. Yeah, I guess that tracks. I mean, the game does kind of directly address the player by having Kara be like a player avatar. But it still doesn't quite talk to you and act like this is like a video game. Like, it doesn't say as explicitly like this is a video. Like, yeah, there's save and reset, and it kind of exists in like a weird meta kind of space where video game mechanics can take on physical forms. But it's not, oh god, how do you even put this? Undertale is still concerned with being about like a not video game thing.
Like, Undertale's world is in the confines of the game window, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, you're right.
Whereas stuff like Doki Doki Literature Club and aggressively OneShot.
OneShot is very, very much, it exists everywhere in your computer, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the big difference between DDLC and OneShot, I think, is that DDLC uses its like fourth wall aspect. It uses it as a horror thing to instill fear in the player, to make the concept, like the whatever's going on in the story, feel more real. Whereas and usually you see a lot of that where it's like, oh shit, the game is real and it's going to affect me personally.
Yeah, like, oh god, my computer is now haunted as fuck. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas OneShot is very much like, it's rare to see one where it's actually more like benevolent, you know?
Yeah. Ultimately, OneShot is a much more has a very gentle view of the player character versus Undertale, which has a very negative view of the player character, which makes sense because, I mean, like, Undertale is a commentary on those kind of people who play a game over and over again just to get completionist stuff. Like the Genocide Run, that's what that's about. It's like a big, long commentary kind of about obsessive, toxic nostalgia.
Right.
And Doki Doki Literature Club is not necessarily aggressive toward the player character. I mean, like, the antagonist of DDLC is in love with the player, but the game itself is very antagonistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a gentle way of putting it. But no, OneShot has a very kind of kind look toward the player, and it's always reassuring that, like, yeah, the player wants to save the world as well.
It's coming from the viewpoint of the player, like you said, like, wanting to save, like, it is coming from the perspective that you are here to help Nico.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's not leaving it ambiguous like Undertale does. Like, it's coming from, like, you're playing this game because you want to help the character accomplish their goal.
Yeah. It's definitely a game made from the perspective of, like, normal people who play video games, not like obsessive completionists or like psychopaths and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But just like the general, like, normal this is like a weird comparison, but when we were talking a few weeks about Detroit, right? And it's this idea of, like, in, like, Detroit, everybody is just so instantly aggressive toward androids, and it's unrealistic because, like, people as a whole are not terrible. Like, generally speaking, most people want to be helpful. Most people kind of instantly imprint on, like, a cute thing and want to help it instead of, like, hurt it. And OneShot is kind of written from the perspective of, like, a normal person who interacts with video games in a normal way, you know?
Well, it's like we kept saying to each other, where it's like, 15 minutes in, it's like, oh, I would fucking die for Nico.
I would die for Nico instantly. Yeah, pretty much as soon as the game started, I was like, oh, look at this cute cat child. Oh, look at these adorable, like her little talk sprites.
Yeah.
Are all, like, the cutest thing in the entire universe. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I would take a bullet for this cat child. Yeah.
No, Nico is not a cat.
I know, because cats walk on 4 legs, but
cats walk on 4 legs.
Right.
Nico's not a cat.
Nico is not a cat, but it's great. It's fine. I love this. I love this tiny child, and it's and all of their incredible sadness.
And then, and then when the game addresses you, the player, and it's like, it's like, oh, that's. From a objective writing like standpoint, it's a super easy way to immediately like imprint the audience onto the character,
right?
But it works really well.
It works incredibly well. I mean, like, it's easy because it works so well. Like, you make the characters really cute, and they address you directly, or one of them addresses you directly. And you have little conversations with each other because you can pick the way you talk to Nico. Not much, but, it's there.
Enough.
Enough. And so, like, oh, you're having a little conversation with this kid, and, oh, look at that! You've now officially imprinted on the baby, and now it's like, well, let's see this story through. And if you're playing the video game like a normal, not emotionally dead person, then it's like, yeah, you do want to help Nico, and you want to help, like, all of the little fun people she interacts with. And it's nice, it's nice.
It's nice to see this concept treated not as like a twist or as like a
malevolent thing.
Yeah, a malevolent thing, whereas, it's coming more from like the idea of wanting to actually see a story through,
Yeah.
And they do a very effective job of, like, manipulating the space around the game window.
Yeah, it's so interesting. That's the part I love the most.
I don't know if, because, it's like, okay, well, it's super easy to add a file to your, to the game folder. Like, it's in Steam. Like, it's super easy to program that, whatever.
Right.
I don't know if it's really that easy to add one to, like, your computer's just regular old documents folder.
Yeah, that was, I had a hiccup. This, the hard drive that is in my current desktop is, a hard drive from my old, from where I work. And I have it just because I got it for free, and it's like a 500 gig hard drive for free. Like, yeah, I'm going to take it when I'm putting together a computer. But it's still, I don't have administrator permissions on everything. I have administrator permissions on, like, 95% of my actions. But for some reason, I can't save things to the documents folder. And because of that, when it first tried to save something into my documents folder, it, crashed. And I was, like, sitting there for a few minutes. I was like, is this intentional? Is it supposed to be doing this? I don't know.
What I was thinking about that moment and what that's like is I kind of told you where it's like going to a street magician and like the street magician is like, hey, give me your phone, and you give him like a flip phone and he's like, oh shit, because like the trick requires like an iPhone or like an Android. He's like, well,
I can't do the trick with this one, I'm sorry. Yeah, the game could not do the trick with mine, so it froze, and I was just like, I sat there, because, like, what happens when it messes up like that is that one of the little text boxes, like the little outside of the game text boxes where you have to hit OK to advance the conversation between you and the entity.
Yeah.
One of those text boxes popped up, and it was like, cannot blah 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 to like my documents, can't write to my documents or something like that. And I hit OK, and then the game was frozen, and I was like, is this part of the act? I don't know. And then I literally let it sit for like 10 minutes, and I was like, I think it just crashed. Yeah. So, unfortunately, yeah. So I guess it's a little bit more difficult than just like changing something about the game file itself. I don't know.
And like the other thing is that like I know a lot of games that do that. Like I don't know what Undertale or I think Doki Doki Literature Club was made in what engine? Was it Unity?
I think it was Unity.
Yeah, because it was made in an engine where like it is easy to get into the Steam folders, you know.
Yeah.
OneShot was made in RPG Maker.
OneShot was made in RPG Maker. I think Undertale was made in RPG. No. Undertale's demo, when it was a Kickstarted project, the demo was in RPG Maker, and then they remade it in something else. I don't know what the engine was, but it's not in RPG Maker.
And it's
yeah,
like,
OneShot is an RPG Maker game.
And, you know, it's like, oh, I can expect, like, Unity or, like, Unreal to be able to mess with folders and stuff, but it's like, right. I didn't think that feature would exist in RPG Maker.
That doesn't seem like within RPG Maker's purview. Yeah. It seems a little advanced for good old reliable RPG Maker, but I guess I don't know anything.
Generating a notepad document with, like, special text in it
Yeah.
that I didn't even know Notepad was capable of rendering.
yeah, Notepad can do like special Unicode fonts and stuff like that. It was very, very interesting, especially having like my desktop change, which was really cool, but I was also kind of worried that it wouldn't change back because I was like, OneShot, I don't have this image saved on my computer anymore, and I would like to keep my desktop the way it is. But fortunately, it pops back, and I was like, okay, it was fine. We're good.
Yeah.
Good job.
Once you close the window, it'll go back to normal too.
Right.
But it was interesting with that one, especially because like I have a desktop cycler.
Yeah. Right.
So I have a desktop cycler, and so it just cycles through whatever random wallpaper. I have like 100 wallpapers, like over 100 wallpapers that it just cycles through, and I don't even know what's in the folder anymore.
Right.
So it changed like after I got that prompt, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like, my desktop cycler kicked in right when I did the meta thing. That's kind of neat. And it's like,
whoops.
And it's the computer is like, it's in like the easiest place to find. And I'm like, okay, it put a file on my desktop. Like, it put a JPEG on my desk, like a file on my desktop. I'm like, I don't see it. What? Because, like, I only have, like, 3 columns of icons, so, like, it would have popped up, like, out.
Right.
It wasn't like, hidden behind the window. I'm like, it would have popped up there. Like, oh shit, is it in the documents folder? Did it go to the start menu?
No.
Like, the most easiest place to find is the desktop. Like, I don't.
Right.
Did like the file path not go? And I'm like, and then it's like, I looked at the Steam forums. I'm like, what's going on? And the OneShot game window was perfectly covering up the secret pattern. So, I literally would have never, like...
Oh my god.
I don't know.
I don't know what's going on. Oh my god. That's amazing. Oh my god. So yeah, OneShot messing with all your files and stuff. Although easily the coolest thing I've ever seen in any video game this year are the transparent note pages that show you where to go.
Yeah!
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Cool. I didn't know Windows could do that.
I did not know that Windows could be transparent like that. Yeah, I've been using computers since I was like 12 years old, and I'm almost 30 now. And I was like, I didn't know they could be transparent like that. Okay. Well, that's a new thing.
It's like I'm running on a Windows 7,
Right.
Like, so that means Windows 7 could do that.
What the fuck?
Which is like, it's like, okay, I can expect Windows 8 or Windows 10 to be able to do that. That's fine. But it's like, This is a Windows 7 device.
So it's always been able to do that. Fine. Okay.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. And just like, when I realized it, oh man, it was so cool. Because like, at first it shows you, at first you're kind of like, wait, I need to, so like, do I move it to overlap with like one of the hallways, and then I go out that hallway or something? But no, you have to line it up with the clover on screen, and then it'll show you, like, which direction you have to go. And I was just like, this is the coolest thing.
Yeah.
It is such a cool... It's a gimmick, but it's a cool gimmick, so it's fine.
Yeah, like, every... So, you know, I was thinking about it, actually. What this game does, it's not fourth wall, like Doki Doki Literature Club, you know?
Yeah.
It's not fourth wall. What it is kayfabe.
Wrestling kayfabe, yeah.
Because the plot of the game is that characters within the game world built the simulation that you're playing.
Right, yeah, and then they just kind of hurled it onto the internet for anyone to download and play. And yeah, it's kayfabe.
So it's not like Doki Doki Literature Club, which is a game on Steam where an entity in the game becomes real.
Right.
And the gimmick is that, like, the game is real. In OneShot, it's that characters within the game universe made the game you're playing. So it's like a 180 swerve, like...
Yeah. It's weird because, it interacts with your computer in a different way, too. Like, going back to the DDLC thing. DDLC literally does break the fourth wall in that eventually your computer screen, which is the fourth wall, is referenced for one. Monica literally has a poem where she calls it a hole in the wall. So,
right.
Like, it's a literal reference to the fourth wall. And then your computer screen becomes a window into, like, that world. But, like, OneShot doesn't interact with your computer screen as a window or as a fourth wall. It's kind of like... I can't even describe it. I don't even know how to put it. It's literally like you're looking down onto it instead.
Well, there's a thing where Silver, when you go into the mines in the Solstice playthrough,
yeah,
when the screen turns on, Silver mentions that it looks like there are cameras pointing down,
yeah,
from above the city, and that's like what you're doing.
Yeah, and it should be impossible because she's never seen any cameras before.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is, again, like, super interesting. It's not... You are literally looking down on them from, like, the perspective of a god. Like, it's all very... It's all kind of literal and interesting. And I love the interactions of windows to the void. That was one that really threw me off. There was, like, put this window in the void, and I'm like, what's the void?
Yeah.
The void is the space that exists... outside of your computer screen, but is still technically part of your computer? Like, a thing you never think about.
You are literally dragging the game window, which is already like a weird, like, meta existence.
Yeah.
And you are dragging it beyond the borders of your computer monitor?
And for one, I didn't even know a window could recognize that it was beyond the borders of your computer monitor.
Yeah.
So RPG Maker is a lot stronger than I realized. And OneShot taught me things about my computer that I didn't know. Thanks, OneShot. I didn't know that windows could be, like, aware that they are in the space outside. I'm, like, gesturing, and I wish people could see it. Like... I did not know that Windows were aware that they are in the space outside of my monitor, and it's such a strange thing. The bit when Nico goes home and she literally walks out of the screen is one of the stranger things I've ever experienced.
Yeah, she walks out of the game window and she is gone.
Yeah, she walks out into the void and she is gone forever. And I had like a weird feeling after the second time when I've actually finished the game like 2 hours ago. I was like, should I be wearing pants? I was like playing the game just like in my pajamas, and I was just like, for some reason I had the most bizarre thought. I was like, I should put on pants. And then I was like, what am I doing? Which is what the whole game is about, of course.
Yeah, this whole game is about, like, determining what you can consider real.
Right.
You know, what parts of a medium, of a story are more real than the others.
Right.
You know, Doki Literature Club does the same thing, where Monica is more self-aware than the others, and the others are software, with pre-rendered programming.
Right.
You know, and in this one, Nico is more aware than most of the others, you know, aside from the other three.
Cedric, Rue, and Prototype Bot.
Yeah. You know, and so it's like, it asks that question of, like, how much do your actions in the game world really matter? Because, you know, what is the extent of how real they are?
Right, yeah. And you know, there's the conversation where they finally explain what it is for a robot to be tamed, and it's like, well, all robots have very limited programming, and they can't think outside of their minds except unless they spend a lot of time with a person, and that spending time with people is what allows them to be something more. And that's like, that is so interesting, because it's basically saying, like, yeah, like, I'm saying like a lot because I need a lot of filler words to help me think while I speak. It's exactly when people say, why are you crying over, like, a character in a show or something? It's like, it's not real. Well, yeah, but it's real to me.
Yeah, it's kayfabe. It's kayfabe. It's real to me.
It's real to me. It's the whole game is about that feeling of it's real to me. Like, that is explicitly what the theme is. It's like, how real is something, and how real are the feelings you have for the media you interact with? Like, how valid are those emotions? And according to OneShot, like, they're incredibly valid. They're like forces of nature. They're kind of what make us like people. And it's like that interaction with game characters and characters inside of media is what lets us expand more as people ourselves. We seek out stories that are explicitly like things that kind of challenge us, because it's a way for us to expand more within ourselves in, like, a safe context. And I think that's incredibly interesting. It is a very smart way to approach the idea of players and, like, the narrative inside of a game.
Yeah. It's
yeah.
You know, going back to the taming robots, the idea of that being, like, a robot becomes tamed when they are treated like a real person.
Right.
Is, you know, it's a direct analog to, well, the story becomes real when you treat it like it's real.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, it's just like, you know, you go through the first playthrough, and it's like, yeah, that was an interesting story that kind of played with my expectations as a player, with the game world versus the world around it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, you finish, and it's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
And then you open the window again, and it's like, oh, if you really want to keep going, you know, here's what you do.
Yeah, here's the way to let the story keep going, and how much do you care? Like, how real is the story to you? Do you and I was doing some reading before we got on the call. The game originally didn't have this ending. It originally just ended at the choice, and then the solstice was added with the 2016 re-release. This game originally came out in 2014. It was, like, way more restrictive and a lot meaner.
Yeah, because it literally was one shot, and if you even closed the window, the game ended.
Yeah, if you close the window without letting Nico sleep, the the game ended. You got a non-standard game over. And then you would have to go fiddle with files in your registry to to play it again. Yeah.
Like way deeper than the way to like cheat Undertales. Like like, oh, in Undertale you just go and delete your save the folder out of the Steam file, the Steam index, and you can just do it over. Where it's like, no, you have to go in and you have to like,
you've got to change a value in your registry or something like that. Is what it is, and I'm just like, chill the fuck out, OneShot. Although I get it. I mean, like, it's an artistic statement. It's supposed to be like, but it's also not terribly friendly to like getting people to play your video games. So I'm glad they changed it.
Yeah, I'm glad for the new approach where where it changes the theme of like the idea of OneShot. Because once you start the Solstice route, the entity says you are only supposed to get one shot at this.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it's really interesting in that regard of like of breaking past the limits of the game world.
Yeah.
Because
really
you
reaching
care.
Out and grabbing you. Yeah, because you care. Yeah.
Because it could end there, but then most players are probably like curious, like, okay, well, what happens if I open the game up again? Like the window closes like abruptly, so like when I open it, what'll I see? And it's the way to move forward now and to try again.
Right, to go open up the Clover file and try again and see what happens. Again, it's super interesting. Don't know how you make those kind of things work, like having two windows open. I don't know anything about video games, so as far as I'm concerned, it's magic.
Yeah, it's straight up sorcery.
It's just black magic to me. I don't know how video games work. The idea that you can have two windows open and the second window will interact with the other one and make something unlock inside that window, I'm just like, yeah, I understand. It's magic. Yeah.
It's that picture of Popco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, I understand. Doesn't understand at all. That's me. I'm just like, thanks, game. Because I am as dumb as a bag of rocks. So good for you, OneShot.
We're only good at analyzing the game content, not like the mechanics behind it.
No, that's really hard, actually. I went to art school.
but it is kind of interesting because like, the idea of it's funny because like we are treating like it's all of it as a video game, but we're only treating parts of it like a video game. Like Nico and Rue and Cedric and Prototype are like, in the narrative, are not video game characters, whereas everyone else is a video game character.
Right.
But they are video game characters because everything you're doing is within the confines of what was programmed in the game, really?
Right.
But, like, you are still breaking the conventional route of, like, how you interact with the medium.
Right. Yeah. It's... Oh, go ahead.
It's like an ARG, It
is kind of like an ARG. It's an interesting question of how much free will do you have? I think this is a conversation we kind of had with DDLC, but we're going to have it again. How much free will do you have versus how much free will does like a game character have? And you start thinking about like determinism, which is the concept that we don't really have a lot of free will. Or is it the other way around and determinism is that we have free will? Sorry, I'm not going to Google that right now, and I'm sure somebody on Twitter is going to be like, she's using philosophical terms she doesn't understand. I'm getting my wires crossed, people. But it's like, there are a lot of... So this is... When we were talking about this the other night on Discord, like in chat, because we always do, I mentioned that there are like a lot of really like smart people out there who are way smarter than you and I, who think there is a decent chance that the world we live in right now is a simulation, which is exactly what OneShot is about. It's about a bunch of creatures existing within of a simulation, and so it's like, if we are, that means there's something out there with a higher intelligence than us. And that means that, like we're like nothing to them. If that's the case, and so then when you start thinking about that, then your brain goes to video games, and it goes to the idea of, well, if we are just so nothing, if we live in a simulation and we are just so nothing to the things that run the simulation, then what does that mean for the characters we interact with in video games? I mean, realistically, no, they don't have the same degree of intelligence as us, but you still feel kind of weird about it. It starts making things feel weird. Like, how alive, like, what is, not what is alive, but more so, like, what like, deserves, like, compassion.
Yeah, that's it. Like, what is actually deserving of, like, sympathy?
Yeah.
Or I guess empathy would be the better word.
Yeah, like empathy, like empathizing with your game characters, and I don't know if this game was even remotely made with the idea of what if we live in a simulation. But it was just kind of like the thing that my brain kept going back to over and over again when I was playing this game. I was just like, oh god, like if we, because I mean, like this game is explicitly said, like, well, our world died, and so we made a simulation of our world because it's the only way we could keep existing, even if it's not the exact same world. It's kind of our way of persisting after death, and you just start, like, thinking yourself in circles. You're like, oh my god, because that's a really interesting thing to think about. And you really start, it can kind of shift your perspective on game characters, and specifically when games start talking to you.
Yeah.
You start having these very kind of complex feelings about, like kind of like where you fit.
Like,
it's like way too deep for the gorge, even though that's what this podcast is about.
it's like that. It's like that idea of, like, you know, what kind of player are you, or right. Like, you know, it really does depend on, like, how you choose to interact with fiction, especially with video games. Like,
yeah,
you know, are you the kind of player that slaughters everyone in Skyrim and, you know, disregards, like, the plot in favor of just exploration and whatever you want? Mm-hmm. Are you the kind of player that tries to immerse yourself in the world and create a character and follow that character's guidelines and principles?
Right.
Or, you know, and so this game kind of takes away your ability to play the character and instead puts you in the perspective of what kind of person are you then when you interact with this world, and
whoa,
like, are you going to kind of, like, play along with the narrative this game wants to tell?
Yeah, exactly. Like, are you willing to kind of immerse yourself in this story and kind of let yourself believe while you play that these characters are, to a degree, they are real. And by the end of it, the game makes the argument that, like Nico and the other three are more real, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the other characters in the game are less valid, because at that point you've kind of placed a lot of emotions into them as well. And since the game is about, like, you know, it mentions taming the world machine and taming robots, like, and Nico says explicitly, like, yeah, I know these are just, like, simulated people, they're not the real thing, but I still feel for them strongly, and I still want them to be happy. And
yeah,
and so it's kind of asking that of you too, to be like, you know, these are video game characters, but you need to feel something very strongly
you need to like be able to treat them in this moment like real people.
Right.
You know, and you get that with a lot of video games will just write a really compelling narrative to make you feel like that, or they'll, you know, the series will go on long enough that the characters their personalities will go through in the writing, and you can extrapolate on that. But this is a 6-hour game, and so it doesn't have a lot of
6-hour video game.
It doesn't have a lot of time to do. It doesn't have a lot of time to do that, so it kind of asks you to do it for it. And it really is up to the player to decide whether or not they are immersed in this story or not.
Yeah, and
because I can very easily see someone being like, you know, scoffing, like, well, this is dumb. You know,
yeah, and not everybody interacts with media in the same way to kind of connect with characters in that way. Some people prefer more like direct narratives instead of these meta commentary. I'm sure somebody would call it pretentious, which, you know, it's fine. That's your opinion. Like, you know, it's all about how you interact with media, and depending on the way you do interact with your stories, this game can either be just kind of like whatever to you, or it can hit you really deeply. It can really affect you. This is a thing we didn't talk about. You mentioned it before the call started. I was like, no, I don't want to talk about it in pre-recording chat because that's way too compelling to not say on the air. For the this might be the first time in like Gorge history. You cried and I didn't.
Yeah, which is very interesting because I'm not a crier.
And I am a big fat baby who cries at everything. Yeah.
Yeah, the completing the solstice route, and Nico saying their goodbye, the credits crawl where everyone is okay again.
Yeah.
You know, I got teary-eyed at that.
That's amazing. That never happens.
Yeah, that's what makes it really interesting, and that's why this kind of, you know, it kind of relates to the idea I was thinking about, like, this is a game with a very, very limited target audience.
Yeah.
It is a game that is written for experienced gamers.
Yeah.
Experienced PC gamers.
Right.
Experienced PC gamers who are willing to really invest themselves in a narrative and, like, compel with characters and relate to them.
Right.
Because if you were not someone who plays a lot of PC games and it started doing the documents shit,
yeah,
you'd be like, I don't get it.
Yeah, or it wouldn't feel... I'm sure, like, anybody... Because the game is very hand-holdy, and that's not a bad thing, either. Because, as I've mentioned, I'm as dumb as a box of rocks. And so, like, it's not a bad thing for it to be hand-holdy. I think anybody could figure out, like, the quote-unquote puzzles that the meta aspect of the game presents to you, but it wouldn't be as, like, whoa, to somebody who doesn't play a lot of video games. It's like, oh, that's kind of neat. But then yeah.
That's what I mean, where it's more like, you know, yeah, it's easy to figure out, okay, it's in the documents folder. Okay, change your background, or, you know, you're not digging through like 5-6 system operating folders deep to find the file, you know.
Right, exactly.
You're not changing anything that's gonna like crash your computer.
There's no values that need to be changed in the registry. It's fine.
But, you know, people like you and me who have played a lot of video game, you have played literal decades of video games.
Yeah.
We are way more like used to the comfort window of the game only existing within the 4 walls of our monitor or our TV, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So that's why when this game does break beyond that,
literally,
yeah, we're like, holy shit, what the fuck?
Yeah, I don't think, if you hadn't played like a ton of video games, I don't know if it would have the same kind of like, whoa moment that it does if you have.
it's a lot like, it's a lot like, here's a good comparison for it. It's a lot like having decades of movie experience,
right,
and seeing the T-Rex in Jurassic Park versus if Jurassic Park is like your 5th movie you've ever seen.
Right, yeah, it's not the same degree of just like, it's still mind-blowing because the CG and the animatronics in Jurassic Park are still incredible, however many years it's been. But if you've like been watching movies for like a long time before CGI was like a big thing, then Jurassic Park was literally Peter Jackson. There's a good example. Peter Jackson has specifically said that the thing that made him, like, realize that big, crazy movies are now possible, and Peter Jackson is a smart man who's made a lot of movies, but he realized, like, you could make a big, epic movie now where you couldn't before, was because of Jurassic Park.
Yeah, it's that kind. It's not, like, taking it for granted, but it's, like, unless you have, like, that, like,
baseline
like, knowledge. Yeah, that knowing of like, well, when I was, 15 years ago, we would never even dreamed of this.
Right.
And, so it's the same thing with stuff like this, where it's like, because you and I have played games for like fucking 20 years.
Oh god,
we're
I'm
like,
old.
Yeah, we're like, this would have never been possible, like 5-10 years ago. You would never even dream of something like this.
Yeah, specifically because, like, game narrative and the indie game scene was just not a thing in the way it is now.
And that's like exactly why these indie weeks are so good.
It's such a good idea, because it's like, oh my god, I get to actually play things I would never have played OneShot, ever.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, we said this last week, I feel like whenever we do Indie Week, I'm like, I would have never played this game normally. But it's true, because, like, it would just kind of sail right by, and I wouldn't even think about it. I'd be like, oh, that sounds neat, and then go on with my day. But, like, Indie Week is a good way to just force me to sit down and try something different, and always be pleasantly surprised. Yeah, boy, it is thundering super hard. I hope you all like the ambiance. It's very dark and foreboding while we talk about this nice video game.
Yeah, this would have been way better if we were doing our Doki Doki Literature Club episode.
I know! This would have been so much better for that. Man. Oh well, it's alright, it's nice. But yeah, no, and like you said, the willingness to connect with characters in a story, like, for example, my dad. I love my father, right?
Mm-hmm.
My dad does not really, like, latch on to characters in stories. Like, you think about it, and you're like when we talk about, like, among people our age, or especially when you're kind of in, like, a video gamey subculture, most people are willing to kind of interact with stories like that, to imprint on characters and take it very seriously. And so sometimes with, like, really nerdy subcultures, you kind of forget that there are actually people out there who just don't. And like, my dad is one of those kind of people. I love my dad. He just does not get, like, really hyped about movies. He doesn't really get enthusiastic in stories. He's like, that was a good movie. And then he moves on with his day.
Right.
Like, this kind of game would just not, even if my dad did play video games, and my dad does not play video games, but even if my dad did, I don't think it would really have the same kind of, like, oh, really thoughtful, like, oh man, kind of impact that it did on me, and especially on you. So there actually are people out there who just don't think about stories in that context, and that's fine, I guess. I can't imagine living like that, but it's fine.
Yeah, there's people who, like, a game like this would just bounce off them.
Ugh, my phone is not on phone.
It would just, like, it wouldn't even click with them, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And so you are right to come back to your initial thesis statement. This game does have a very limited audience, but it's done really well. It has like 9,000 ratings on Steam now, so people liked it. Congrats. I very much enjoyed it. I am not as susceptible to cute children and animals as you are. And I think that's what did you in.
I think I've made it like, I think I've said it like a few times where it's like, I am the kind of person who I cannot hate a single character in Mario. I love every single Mario enemy and creature and all of that. And this is a game full of cute little robots and animal people.
Yep.
And so it's just like, it's laser pointed to me.
It's like a shot right through the chest
of
love. Calamus and Alula, I can't say her name. Calamus and Alula, they are some of the most charming designs I've seen in a while. I don't know. Something about them is just so adorable, and I just want to squeeze both of them. Because they have the little cartoony eyes, and they have their little beaks, and their faces are kind of covered in shadow. It's precious. I love it.
They're really cute, and plus, Alula's a really adorable character.
Because her little portrait comes in at, like, an angle, so you always get the sense of, like, because it's coming in at an angle, you always get the sense that she's kind of, like, bouncing into Nico's, like, eye line to get their attention. Because, like, Alula is very short, so you always get the sense that she has to, like, jump up to be recognized when she speaks. And it's super, super adorable. And,
all the dreams that Nico can have
are precious.
Oh my god.
They're so cute.
Very effective use of going from pixel art to, like, sketchy, like, images.
Yeah.
Very effective in seeing, the life that Nico has outside of the game world and the world, that they're trying to get back to.
Interesting because it does a good job of, again, kind of making Nico, because, like, a major plot point is that Nico is a real person like you and me, and the idea that Nico has a look that is, like, exists in a more real way instead of just pixel art. They actually have, like, soft drawn memories that kind of evoke the ideas of dreams and nostalgia, things like that. Helps to solidify this idea that, Nico is more real than everybody else, from, like, a thematic standpoint.
Right.
Which is nice.
Yeah. Again, very effective use of, like, when Nico takes a nap, the game closes. Closing the window and saving it and bringing it back, Nico can sense a brief flash of darkness.
And they're like, that was really weird, something feels really wrong, and then you're like, I'm really sorry that I have to save the game.
I'm sorry, I have to go to bed, Nico.
I need to sleep, I'm really sorry, I don't wanna, but I have to turn the game off now, small child.
Fortunately, like, mercifully, Nico implies it only lasts, like, a second, but it's still, like, weird for them.
Yeah, it's still kind of like, I'm sorry, but I have to do this.
I also really do like that Nico comes from a world that's not Earth.
Yeah,
like
they kind of have their own little land.
Yeah, and they ask questions, and it's a bit where they're like, when it gets dark out, people usually go to sleep, but sometimes they stay up and play computer games.
And then we're both like,
And then I'm looking at the clock, and it's like 11:30. And I'm like, I'm like, did that line, did the game read my clock on my computer and give me that line?
Yeah, anything's possible now. Who knows? This game is psychic, and it's making fun of me. Yeah, and all sorts of just little fun things like that. I enjoyed all the little, like, fun, cutesy characters and the art style. The game is heavily built around RGB, like red, green, blue, like color channels on a computer screen. I love that because that's my job. And so when I realized it, I was like, oh my god, it's RGB! So, like, I got really excited for no reason about that.
Beautiful color palette in this game.
So beautiful, very just... It helps elevate very simple sprite work. Like, the sprite work in this game is not... It's not bad. but it's not like amazing tier either, you know?
You know, you're not getting your completely full animated Metal Slug or King of Fighters like sprite work here.
It's very simple, but the really nice use of color palettes elevates it to something very special and very memorable. The city, especially, just those rosy, the refuge. Those rosy tones, and the music is just so. I spent a ton of time in the city because I just loved the music and the warm color palettes and all the pinks and reds. It just felt really nice. It was nice. It's a beautiful game.
Yeah. Going around like the upper apartments. And you know,
riding the Roomba.
Yeah, riding the Roomba was the best!
It was great! It was so cute!
The fact that you can have Nico imitate a robot and you can embarrass them.
Yeah! I was like, I'm sorry, but it was cute, Nico.
I love that scene so much, I deliberately went out of my way to do it in the Solstice playthrough again before continuing on.
Oh no, that's adorable! That's great! Oh,
man. Here's this interesting thing I read about afterwards is that you can just do a plain second playthrough.
Yeah, like it'll just loop again, right?
Yeah, you can not do anything in the mine shaft and then just go and because I did the entire rest of the game with the gas mask and rubber gloves in my inventory because I skipped the part where Nico would discard them because I continued with the Solstice part.
Yeah, I spent the rest of the game with the glass bottle and the stick. Not the stick.
The crowbar?
But otherwise, like, I got into Solstice pretty quickly, which I'm glad for because we were both a little caught off guard by the game looping. You finished your run first before me, and you were like, "It just did a thing," and I'm like, "What do you mean it did a thing?" And you're like, "You know how roots A and B of Nier are like the prologue?" And then I immediately went, "Oh," which is why we're recording this on a Thursday instead of a Monday.
Yeah, we were gonna put it out. We were gonna put it out like at the beginning of last week, and I'm like, we can't.
We can't because it caught us off guard. I thought I was like, oh, I've only got a little bit left in this game. We'll be able to. I'm gonna finish it up before recording on Monday, and we'll be good. Nope.
No. There's more. There's more game.
There's more video game. There's not a lot more video game, but there was just enough video game where we had to push it back.
We had to push it.
So yeah.
Here's something I really, really, really liked. I don't know if you did this. After you beat the Solstice one, did you open the game again?
I did, and I saw the 3 little dots that let you go talk to the world machine, and they're like, if you want to do a new game plus, it's not like in Undertale, you know, if you restart a new game of Undertale, you are effectively destroying your happy ending, right?
Right.
Like, the game is very explicitly like, you are about to undo something.
Yeah, I really, really like that because, you know, again, it goes back to the point we made in the very beginning where it's like, this is a much more benevolent, like, kayfabe game.
Yeah, exactly.
Where, you know, where Doki Literature Club is like, well, no, you can't really replay the game. Like, you have taken the files out and now it won't be the same no matter what. Or like Undertale where it's like, you can restart it, but you will be really undoing the happiness you already worked so hard for.
Yeah, because again, Undertale makes a point to be like, a couple characters know you're restarting, and so you are inflicting, like, taking away this happiness from specific characters, and it's like, you know, do you really want to do that? And if you do, that's kind of like a monstrous decision. I haven't played, as much as I love Undertale, I haven't played Undertale since I got a pacifist ending. If
I ever get the urge to replay Undertale, I'm going to have to buy it on my Switch or my PS4.
I honestly, because I'm the same way. I was thinking about it. I was like, I could replay Undertale without any feelings of guilt if I bought it on my PlayStation 4. Also, Undertale is getting like a swanky, like, physical Switch release, and I'm like, fuck, I gotta get a Switch.
I know, right?
I know, I want it really badly.
Put Sans in Smash.
Put Sans in Smash! I want to see that meltdown. That would be amazing. This is off topic.
But circling back, like I was gonna say, I like that this game is like, yeah, you can restart it. It won't be the real Nico, but it'll be a recording of what happened.
Right. It's just memories.
Yeah, it makes it a point to say Nico is still safe at home. Right. They're safe. You're not putting them back in the situation. They're still safe.
And everybody in the world is still. So they even make a point to be like, you're not like inflicting pain on the residents of the simulation.
Yeah, you are just basically you're just watching the tape again.
Yeah, and that's nice. Like, that's a nice little benevolent detail. Like, thanks, OneShot, for not making me feel bad about wanting to replay your game. I probably won't replay OneShot for a while, because, like, it's just kind of like a, you know, like, gameplay-wise, it's just kind of whatever. But that's not the point, you know?
It's a adventure puzzle.
Adventure game.
Gather up your items and then find out where the items go.
Right, fetch quests and things like that. It's fine. It's not the point, and that's why the game is so short, so it doesn't overstay its welcome and make you be like, oh god, I have to do this again. Thank god. So, yeah.
So what is funny is on the subreddit, there is, like, a very small but active speedrun community for OneShot.
What?
On the subreddit and the subreddit's Discord, there's a speedrun tab, and it's like every so often I'll see people like, yeah, I got my time down by a few seconds.
How do you speedrun OneShot?
You just dash through and you do the puzzles, I guess really quickly.
Just move optimization.
Yeah.
Someday I'm gonna hear a fucking Summoning Salt video about, like, the world record history of OneShot, and it's gonna be like, one day they found a way to skip the Glen, and I'm gonna be like, what the fuck? And they got, like, completion time down to 2 minutes. Someday somebody's be like, you can beat OneShot in 2 minutes. I'm gonna be like, oh god. Oh god.
But you know what is another thing that's interesting is, like, okay, you can put Undertale on the Switch and the PS4.
You can't put OneShot anywhere else.
How would you port OneShot to anything?
You couldn't. You literally could not, because it's all about interacting with Windows in some way. Like, you just can't. There's no way to port OneShot to anything. It's just too weird.
Like, you would have to find some way to, like, manipulate files in, like, your PlayStation, like, because you have the PlayStation photo, like, window, right?
Yeah!
You'd have to, like, find a way to manipulate that and, like, store the documents in that.
But then you also remember there's the bit with, like, the notebook pieces, and you have to have those overlaid on top of your game window.
Yeah.
There's no way. It would literally be impossible. You cannot port OneShot to anything else except, like, it can only exist on a PC. Maybe now that I think about it, like the 3DS. But I don't know how. But no,
because you still had that problem with Word documents and stuff. Like, you can't be ported anywhere else.
You can't put it anywhere else. You can't. It's a PC game only forever. So I mean, thank God it's, like, very simple pixel art, so anybody can run it. Mm-hmm. Which is smart, because they can't maximize them profits by sticking it on other things. I still don't know how Undertale works on the PS4.
I don't. I'm like I want to buy it just because I want to see, like, well, how do you...
I kind of want to buy it just to see how it works.
Yeah, how do you do the save file shit?
Like, would it just be like, I guess when Flowey takes over your game, would the game just hard crash and kick you back to your dashboard? Is that it?
I don't know. I want to find out. Like,
we're gonna end up buying Undertale, like, twice, like 3 more times, because I'm like, I gotta have it on my PS4 and the Switch because I love Undertale. Yeah. But
yeah, OneShot is it's definitely an experience I'm glad I went through. Like,
yeah, it's definitely some pain that felt good at the end. It was never too, like, I was never too emotionally distraught about it, which is nice.
Yeah, they do a very good job of, like, you know, I'm not gonna say, like, it's handholdy or, like, innocent, but, like, it's it's kind of it's just refreshing to like.
It's like a Miyazaki movie.
Yeah, it's nice to have this concept like apply to something that doesn't like trying to hurt me.
yeah. It's nice to not have like the game just really revile you, which is good. Thanks, game, for
like,
not hating me.
You can never like. It's funny because like actually I was talking about this on the OneShot Discord.
Yeah,
where it's like people were like, yeah, I tried to break the light bulb just to see if I could.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad the game didn't let me do that.
But the game also... I did too. I tried. Well, I didn't mean to. I was just fiddling around with combinations in my inventory. And if you select the crowbar and the light bulb, then Nico is like, I'm not going to shatter the sun! And then you get a Steam achievement for chaotic evil. And I was like, thanks, game. Yeah.
Because, you know, they were asking, like, well, what if you just stand in the toxic area without the gas mask? And, you know, they were like, no, the game forces Nico to leave. Like, Nico will automatically walk out.
Yeah.
They were like, I didn't know that because I just held down the whole time.
Yeah.
And, like...
Protect the baby!
Yeah, like, the instant I got control, I would be able to leave. But it's like, yeah, so, like, you know, you can never put Nico in danger.
Right, there's no... You can't put Nico in harm's way, which is nice.
Yeah.
Because I don't want like a battle system with this baby. I want this baby to be okay. Be nice to the baby, okay? Please. It was very charming. Just all
very
of it
good
was
game.
very charming. Like we did a lot of comparisons to DDLC and Undertale. I think Undertale is still ultimately like. If you were like, hey Sarah, do you want to do another 3-hour thing about Undertale? I would be like, boy, do I! I could probably talk for another hour about Undertale right now, because I still have a lot of feelings about it. And OneShot is like very nice and charming, and I might replay it someday, I might not, but I liked it. It wasn't too expensive. And it's just a very unique experience, and for that reason alone, you should definitely play it and just enjoy it. It's fun.
Yeah,
it's good.
As long as you're willing to really empathize with the story, and as long as you're
invest
willing
yourself in it completely. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta be willing to kind of meet it halfway and like commit to like understanding it, and then you will really get a lot out of it.
You get a lot out of it. It's very emotionally satisfying to kind of get that good ending and interact with the world and feel like you are literally a part, like you are a character in the story as much as anybody else, and that's really neat.
Yeah, you know a game like this is good, because when you're done with it, you don't want to play video games for a little bit.
You just kind of want to take a break and be like, and just then like reflect on it and think about it and kind of turn it over in your brain.
Yeah, you just want to be like, it's like, you know what? This game is so good that I don't want to play any other ones for the rest of the night.
I think I'm good. I think I just kind of want to lay here and chill and think about it and be glad that I got a happy ending and just enjoy all of the little charming characters. George, we didn't even talk about George because I mean like these characters are very simple, so there's not a lot to say, but I just like George.
George is great. Dice Head.
Dice Head is nice.
I love that every character is different. Like there's no like you know, the NPCs all look visually different. Some of them have like TV heads, but they aren't robots.
They're just object heads.
Everyone in the library is great.
Oh my god. No, my favorite NPC in the entire game is the guy freaking out about his robot.
Yes!
In the labs? That guy is my favorite character in OneShot because that little pixel art is so relatable. I saw him, and he's just like, my robot! And then when you get to the library later, he's like, it's the end of the world! He's wearing the same expression.
Yeah.
That guy is the most relatable character in OneShot. And I was like, dude, I will save the world entirely for you and your robots. It's cute.
Oh, there is one reason I do want to replay it, though.
What's that?
And that is, did you get through the door in the alleyway?
The door?
There's a locked door in the alleyway that I must have missed the item or the prompt to get through it.
The the alleyway in the city that takes you up, like, into the back alley.
Yeah, where in the Solstice playthrough where you meet Rue.
Yeah.
There is a door with a symbol painted on it to the far right.
Oh, it's not a door. It's just like a weird symbol painted on a wall.
Yeah, but I think there's something behind it.
No, I didn't go through it, so I guess not. You can't access it during Solstice because it's blocked off by blocks.
Yeah, but I think in the same way that you can get the seed and the purified water.
Yeah.
I think there's something you can do with that symbol.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. It's like that's like the only reason I want to replay it, because like I need to find out what the deal is with that.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a good reason to replay it. There's still a few little mysteries tucked away in OneShot, but generally it is a nice little complete package. You won't be on TV Tropes for 6 hours reading about it afterwards. Yeah, I liked it. I'm glad I played it. It was cute. Oh, the music's really good too.
Music's really, really good. It's really
good. Yeah.
Nice and calming and atmospheric.
And just very smooth, and you just kind of it just kind of navigates you into feeling all the feelings it wants you to feel. I like it. Yeah, just in general, whole game is just a nice little tightly put together package, and it's absolutely worth your time and money.
Yeah.
We did it in under an hour and a half.
Is that about it then?
I think that's about it. I mean, like, it is such a simple game with like it's a complex story told in a simple way, and I really like that. It's such a simple game that there just isn't a lot to focus on, but that's not a bad thing. There's just like a lot of interesting little questions being asked about how you interact with your media and how you feel about the characters inside of your media and how that reflects on you, and I just really liked it. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed all of it. So it's a good game.
So that'll do it for us then. Thank you, Broke Free, for background music. You can tweet at us at The Gorge Podcast. You can email us at thegorgepodcast@gmail.com. You can also listen to Sarah's other podcast about storytelling and cool characters and stuff.
But it's nowhere near as nice and sweet as OneShot is.
It is the opposite.
It's a bunch of people making bad decisions all of the time. Hey, I'm in another podcast. It's called Big Gay Nerds, where me and a bunch of cool queer friends sit around and play tabletop games together. We are, in like 2 days, going to be recording the final episode of our Monster Hearts block. By the time this episode goes up, it probably won't be up yet, but it will be soon. I was just like doing the math in my head, and I realized no, it won't be up yet. But it will be soon, so this is an excellent time to get in and listen to us make a lot of poor decisions. Everything has gone sideways. You should definitely come check us out. It's a lot of fun. We're at Big Gay Nerds, all one word, at SoundCloud, and you can find the links to all of our social media from there. Thank you.
So that'll do it for us.
I actually have one. I was thinking about it. I was like, when you were doing the post thing, I was like, there's nothing in this game I hate. But then I thought about it. You know what I hate? You know what can just fuck right off?
What's that?
The goat puzzle. Fuck the goat puzzle.
Man, alright, we're gonna have to agree to disagree, because I got to the goat puzzle and I'm like, ooh, puzzle. No, but you know what? I will agree with you on one thing with that.
What?
That sound got really annoying.
It got real old real fast. Yeah, it needed to not have them, like, thanks, just not, that would be cool. So, yeah.
I like the concept of it, but yeah, that sound got tiring.
Got old real fast. Yeah. There is one goat in the village that makes it's like spinning in circles. You need to go find it because it makes a weird like brah noise at you instead. I love him and the creepy penguin.
The creepy penguin's so good.
The creepy hello penguin is like but I love it too. It's really good. So it's like the dog in Undertale. I'm like, yay, more animal mascots that are weird. I love them. Give me a whole game about them. Cool. All right, we're good.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.